Hello friends, in this video we are going to delve into the states that are on the verge of collapse in 2024. From economic instability and political turmoil to social unrest and environmental challenges, various factors contribute to the precarious situations of these nations. Understanding these crises can help us gain insight into the complexities of global politics and the human suffering that accompanies such instability. Before we start, kindly make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to stay updated with our latest content. Now, let's explore the states that are facing critical challenges in 2024. Lebanon. Lebanon continues to grapple with a severe economic crisis, which has led to hyperinflation, widespread poverty, and a failing infrastructure. The collapse of the Lebanese lira has eroded the purchasing power of citizens, leading to scarcity of essential goods such as food, medicine, and fuel. The banking sector is paralyzed, with people unable to access their savings, exacerbating public discontent and social unrest. The political system is paralyzed by sectarian divisions, which hinder the formation of a stable government capable of implementing necessary reforms. Corruption and mismanagement have further eroded public trust. The devastating Beirut port explosion in 2020, which caused massive destruction and loss of life, highlighted the state's incapacity to ensure public safety and infrastructure integrity. Recovery efforts have been slow, leaving many without homes and livelihoods. Basic services like electricity, water, and healthcare are in dire straits, contributing to the overall instability. Frequent power outages, lack of clean water, and a deteriorating healthcare system are pushing the country closer to collapse. The emigration of skilled professionals is draining Lebanon of the human capital necessary for recovery, leading to a brain drain that further weakens the nation's prospects. Venezuela. Venezuela remains in a state of economic and political crisis. Hyperinflation has rendered the national currency practically worthless, leading to a barter economy in some areas. Food and medicine shortages are severe, causing widespread malnutrition and health crises. The country's vast oil reserves, once the backbone of its economy, have become a liability due to mismanagement and falling global oil prices. Millions of people have fled the country, creating one of the largest migration crises in the world. Neighboring countries are struggling to cope with the influx of Venezuelan refugees, straining their resources and social services. Within Venezuela, those who remain face dire conditions, with basic services collapsing and crime rates soaring. The government, led by President Nicolas Maduro, faces international sanctions and domestic opposition, which have further destabilized the nation. The political landscape is marked by repression, with widespread human rights abuses reported. Opposition leaders are often jailed or forced into exile, and democratic institutions are undermined, making a peaceful resolution to the crisis seem increasingly unlikely. Yemen. Yemen is enduring one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, exacerbated by ongoing conflict since 2015. The civil war has devastated the economy, infrastructure, and public services, leading to widespread famine and disease. The conflict between Houthi rebels and the internationally recognized government, along with foreign interventions, continues to make peace and stability elusive. The blockade imposed by the Saudi-led coalition has restricted access to food, medicine, and fuel, compounding the humanitarian disaster. Millions are on the brink of starvation, and the healthcare system is overwhelmed by outbreaks of cholera and other preventable diseases. Malnutrition, especially among children, is rampant, leading to long-term developmental issues. The country's economy has collapsed, with inflation skyrocketing and the currency depreciating rapidly. Unemployment is widespread, and public sector salaries often go unpaid for months. The destruction of infrastructure, including roads, bridges, and power plants, has crippled the country's ability to recover. The education system is also in shambles, with millions of children out of school, risking a lost generation with little hope for the future. If you're enjoying this video and finding it informative, please take a moment to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell icon so you never miss an update from our channel. We have lots of exciting and insightful content coming your way, so stay tuned and stay informed. Now, let's get back to the topic. Syria. Syria, after more than a decade of civil war, remains in a precarious state. Large parts of the country are still controlled by different factions, including the Syrian government, Kurdish forces, and various rebel groups. The war has led to massive displacement, destruction of infrastructure, and a crippled economy. Reconstruction efforts are hampered by ongoing violence and international sanctions. The conflict has caused one of the largest refugee crises in history, with millions of Syrians seeking asylum in neighboring countries and beyond. Those who remain face dire conditions, with many living in internally displaced persons (IDP) camps with limited access to basic necessities. The healthcare system is in ruins, and access to education is severely limited, affecting the prospects of the younger generation. Sanctions imposed by Western countries have further isolated the Assad regime, limiting its ability to import essential goods and access international financial markets. The economic collapse has led to widespread poverty and unemployment, with inflation making it difficult for ordinary Syrians to afford basic goods. The reconstruction of war-torn areas is slow and underfunded, leaving many regions in ruins and unable to support a return to normalcy. Afghanistan. Since the Taliban's return to power in August 2021, Afghanistan has faced severe economic and humanitarian challenges. International aid, which previously constituted a significant portion of the country's GDP, has significantly decreased, and the economy is in freefall. The banking sector is on the brink of collapse, with cash shortages and restrictions on withdrawals causing widespread panic and uncertainty. Widespread poverty, food insecurity, and a crumbling healthcare system are critical issues. The abrupt cessation of international aid has left millions without access to essential services. Malnutrition rates are soaring, and the healthcare system is unable to cope with the surge in need, particularly in rural areas where infrastructure is weakest. The Taliban's governance and the international community's reluctance to engage with them have left the country isolated and unstable. Human rights abuses, particularly against women and minorities, are rampant, and the repressive measures imposed by the Taliban have stifled dissent and freedom of expression. The lack of international recognition and support has further exacerbated the humanitarian crisis, leaving Afghanistan teetering on the edge of collapse. Haiti. Haiti is experiencing profound political and social instability. The assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in July 2021 plunged the country into further chaos, with competing factions vying for power and legitimacy. The political vacuum has led to increased gang violence and lawlessness, with armed groups controlling large parts of the capital, Port-au-Prince, and other key areas. Haiti also suffers from severe economic difficulties, with high unemployment, inflation, and a lack of foreign investment. The country's infrastructure is poorly developed, and natural disasters, including earthquakes and hurricanes, have further weakened its ability to provide for its citizens. Access to clean water, healthcare, and education is limited, contributing to widespread poverty and desperation. The international community has struggled to provide effective assistance, with aid often hampered by corruption and inefficiency. The lack of a stable government has made it difficult to implement long-term development projects, leaving Haiti dependent on short-term humanitarian aid. The cumulative effect of these challenges has left Haiti on the brink of collapse, with little hope for immediate improvement. Somalia. Somalia continues to struggle with instability and conflict, primarily due to the presence of the militant group Al-Shabaab, which controls large parts of the country. The central government remains weak and reliant on international support, with little control over vast swaths of the territory. The ongoing conflict has led to significant displacement, with millions of people living in dire conditions in IDP camps. Chronic food insecurity, displacement, and recurrent droughts compound the challenges faced by the Somali people. The agricultural sector, which is the backbone of the economy, has been severely affected by climate change and conflict, leading to frequent food shortages and famine. Humanitarian organizations face significant challenges in delivering aid due to security concerns and logistical difficulties. The education and healthcare systems are in a state of disrepair, with limited access to services in many parts of the country. High levels of unemployment and a lack of economic opportunities have left many young people vulnerable to recruitment by militant groups. The international community's efforts to stabilize Somalia have had limited success, and the country remains on the edge of collapse. South Sudan. Since gaining independence in 2011, South Sudan has been plagued by civil war, which erupted in 2013. Despite a peace agreement in 2018, the country remains deeply divided along ethnic lines. Widespread violence, economic hardship, and food insecurity have left millions in need of humanitarian assistance. The civil war has devastated the country's infrastructure and economy, leading to widespread poverty and displacement. Millions of people have been forced to flee their homes, and many live in overcrowded IDP camps with limited access to basic services. The healthcare system is overwhelmed, and outbreaks of preventable diseases are common. Efforts to implement the peace agreement have been slow and fraught with challenges, including disagreements between rival factions and a lack of political will. The country's economy is heavily dependent on oil exports, but mismanagement and corruption have hindered its ability to benefit from this resource. Environmental challenges, including floods and droughts, have further exacerbated the humanitarian crisis, leaving South Sudan on the brink of collapse. Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. The DRC continues to face severe instability due to ongoing armed conflicts in its eastern regions. The country suffers from a weak central government, widespread corruption, and significant human rights abuses. Armed groups, including the notorious Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, and various Mai-Mai militias, control large parts of the country, committing atrocities and exploiting natural resources. The humanitarian situation is dire, with millions displaced and in need of aid. The healthcare system is under immense strain, struggling to cope with frequent outbreaks of diseases such as Ebola and measles. Malnutrition is widespread, particularly among children, and access to clean water and sanitation is limited. The DRC's vast mineral wealth, including significant deposits of cobalt and coltan, has fueled conflict and corruption, rather than contributing to the country's development. The exploitation of these resources by armed groups and corrupt officials has led to environmental degradation and human rights abuses, perpetuating the cycle of violence and poverty. Efforts to stabilize the country and promote sustainable development have had limited success, leaving the DRC on the verge of collapse. Myanmar. Since the military coup in February 2021, Myanmar has been engulfed in violence and political turmoil. The military junta's harsh crackdown on dissent has led to widespread protests, armed resistance, and a severe economic downturn. The conflict has displaced hundreds of thousands of people, creating a humanitarian crisis with limited access to food, shelter, and healthcare. The junta's repressive measures have stifled freedom of expression and led to widespread human rights abuses, including arbitrary arrests, torture, and extrajudicial killings. The economy is in freefall, with international sanctions and reduced foreign investment exacerbating the situation. The banking sector is in crisis, and inflation is eroding the value of savings and incomes. The ethnic conflicts that have long plagued Myanmar have intensified, with armed groups in various regions fighting against the junta and each other. The Rohingya crisis remains unresolved, with hundreds of thousands of refugees living in dire conditions in camps in Bangladesh and other neighboring countries. The international community's efforts to mediate the conflict and provide humanitarian assistance have been hindered by the junta's resistance and the complexity of the situation, leaving Myanmar on the brink of collapse. In conclusion, the states on the verge of collapse in 2024 face a complex web of challenges, including economic instability, political turmoil, social unrest, and environmental disasters. The international community plays a crucial role in providing aid and seeking diplomatic solutions to these crises. However, the path to stability and recovery is fraught with difficulties, and the suffering of millions continues. Understanding these situations is essential for fostering global solidarity and finding ways to support those in need. Thank you for watching, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content. Stay tuned and stay informed.